Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're a new immigrant, work permit holder, or student in Canada, this video is for you. Today, we're going to break down the rights you have in Canada, how to navigate the Canadian legal system and what protections and opportunities are available to you. Let's dive in. Rights of new immigrants in Canada. As a new immigrant to Canada, you're likely adjusting to life in a new country, and understanding your rights is key to making that transition smooth. Let's start by discussing what rights you have when you become a permanent resident or a landed immigrant in Canada. 1. Rights of permanent residents. 1. Right to live, work, and study. As a permanent resident, you can live anywhere in Canada, work for any employer, and study at Canadian institutions. 2. Access to healthcare. You are eligible for Canada's public healthcare system, though waiting periods may apply in some provinces. 3. Protection under the law. You are protected by Canadian laws, including the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. 4. Access to social benefits. As a PR, you are eligible for various social services, such as child benefits, pensions, and unemployment insurance. Now, let's talk about responsibilities of permanent residents. 1. Obligations to Canada. As a permanent resident, you must obey Canadian laws and meet residency requirements, live in Canada for at least 730 days within every 5-year period. 2. Renewing PR status. Permanent residents must renew their PR card every 5 years. 3. No voting rights. While permanent residents have many rights, they cannot vote or run for office in federal or provincial elections until they become Canadian citizens. Now, let's talk about path to citizenship. After living in Canada as a permanent resident for at least 3 years, 1095 days, in the last 5 years, you may be eligible to apply for Canadian citizenship. Becoming a citizen grants you additional rights, including the right to vote and the Canadian passport. What rights you have when you have work permits in Canada. Whether you're a foreign worker coming to Canada for temporary employment, or you're transitioning from study to work, understanding your rights as a work permit holder is crucial. Types of work permits. 1. Open work permits. These permits allow you to work for any employer in Canada. They are often issued to spouses or common law partners of skilled workers, international students, and refugees. 2. Employer-specific work permits. These are permits tied to a specific employer. You can only work for the employer listed on your work permit. 3. Post-graduation work permits, PGWP. If you've graduated from a designated learning institution, DLI, in Canada, you may be eligible for a work permit that allows you to stay in Canada and gain work experience. Rights of work permit holders. 1. Work for a Canadian employer. You have the right to work for the employer or employers listed on your permit. 2. Fair working conditions. Work permit holders are entitled to the same workplace protections as Canadian citizens, including protection from exploitation, proper compensation, and adherence to labor laws. 3. Right to health and safety. Work permit holders have the right to a safe work environment. If you are facing unsafe working conditions, you can report this to provincial or federal authorities. 4. Employment insurance, EI. If you lose your job while working on a permit, you may be eligible for employment insurance benefits. You should know about transitioning from a work permit to permanent residency. Many individuals who come to Canada on a temporary work permit aim to transition to permanent residency. The Express Entry System and other provincial nominee programs, PNPs, allow skilled workers to apply for PR status while they are working in Canada. You should also know about work permits for spouses or partners. If your spouse or common law partner has a valid work permit in Canada, you may be eligible to apply for an open work permit yourself, allowing you to work while you live in Canada. Now the most important one, rights of international students in Canada, as Canada's economy mainly dependent on international students. Canada is a popular destination for international students, thanks to its world-class educational institutions and welcoming environment. If you're an international student, here's what you need to know about your rights and privileges in Canada. 1. Study permits. International students who plan to study for more than 6 months need a study permit. This permit allows you to study at a designated learning institution, DLI, in Canada. 2. Work while studying. International students are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week during academic sessions, and full-time during scheduled breaks, such as summer holidays, but only if they are enrolled full-time in a recognized program. Now we'll talk about rights of international students. Rights of international students: access to healthcare. 1. Students in Canada may be eligible for provincial healthcare, depending on where they study. Some provinces require students to purchase private health insurance if public health coverage isn't available. 2. Legal rights. As an international student, you are protected by Canadian laws, including labor laws if you work part-time or during breaks. 3. Work after graduation. After completing your studies, you may be eligible for a post-graduation work permit, PGWP, which allows you to stay in Canada and work for up to 3 years. The length of the PGWP depends on the length of your study program. There are pathways to permanent residency for students. Many international students seek to stay in Canada after completing their studies. The Express Entry system and various provincial nominee programs provide pathways for students to transition from temporary resident status to permanent resident status, especially if they gain work experience after graduation. The Canadian government also has specific initiatives, like the Canadian Experience Class program, that encourage international students who have work experience in Canada to apply for permanent residency. Key considerations and important resources. Know your rights. 1. Always familiarize yourself with your rights under Canadian law. This includes labor rights, your rights as a tenant, and access to healthcare. If you're unsure of something, there are legal resources available to assist you. 2. Stay informed about your status. Whether you're on a work permit, study permit, or permanent resident status, keep track of important deadlines and requirements. Make sure your status is always up to date, including applying for renewals, extending your stay, or transitioning to permanent residency. 3. Resources for immigrants and international students. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC. This is your go-to website for any questions related to visas, permits, and immigration programs. Settlement services. Many non-profits and local organizations offer free services to help newcomers settle in Canada, including language classes, employment help, and housing assistance. Legal aid and support. If you face any legal issues related to your immigration status or rights, Canada provides access to legal aid in most provinces. Canada is a country of opportunities, and as an immigrant, work permit holder, or international student, there's a wealth of resources available to help you thrive here. Always make sure to stay informed, know your rights, and reach out to professionals if you need support. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share your questions in the comments below. Thanks for watching.